Hey folks, I don't know about you, but I feel a case of corona coming on. Not coronavirus and not a case of this. I'm going to have one, but here it comes. Appropriate for the topic. I have a question for folks who are against wearing masks in the midst of the corona thing. And I don't want this to be argumentative or judgmental, but let's picture a terrible scenario. Someone in your family, person you love very much, a spouse, a child, anime character, I don't know, whatever you're into. That person gets diagnosed with cancer. And you go to a big cancer treatment center. You have to fly. You don't have a choice. Person's too weak, too ill. It's impractical to drive, so you fly. And that person's on an airplane with 100 or so other people. Do you want your loved one wearing a mask? If you're with them, are you going to wear a mask? And do you want the other people on the airplane to wear a mask? Because this person's in a weakened state, and it could, contracting corona could stop treatment, could, depending on complications in their situation, could just kill them in short order. But the best case scenario, it could shorten their lives by months or potentially years. Would you be in favor of everybody on that airplane wearing a mask? And here's why I ask that. One way to get to the root of what you really believe is to put some skin in the game. It's pretty easy to get a meme level education on something and just roll with it. But if you remember back here in Midland, Texas, there was a Jade Helm military exercise. That's Jadehelm if you want to Google it. Held in this area at the same time that a Walmart closed for repairs or renovations. And it all turned into a conspiracy that we were going to be hauled off to concentration camps in Walmart. It's on my written blog. And one thing I did was I issued a wager to anybody, a significant amount of money. Put your money on the table. I want to make a bet on this. And I had all the arrangements. And there were no takers. In other words, the people who are the loudest about it, the ones who are going at it, nobody believed in it enough to put some skin in the game. So I want to know what you think about this, because this came to me while flying United. United has, in the news now, they have gotten a little more serious about their mask policy. As it stood before, they tell you to wear a mask. And when you go through the gate, if you don't have one, they'll offer one. At one airport, a lady was going around handing them out if you didn't have one. And I would get on the airplane specifically out of Midland. Midland's a big no mask town. People would either not wear it on the airplane, they'd pull it around their chin and leave it there the whole flight, or they'd have their nose sticking out. And I know there were 2 chemo patients on that flight, just me and another person that on one of the flights I was on. And it really made me think about this. What's going on right now is the rules have changed. I don't remember when it's effective, but if you don't wear a mask on that flight, you risk being put on their internal no-fly. So it's not like you're labeled a terrorist. It's just if you're not going to wear a mask on their airplanes, they won't let you on the airplane. So I kind of want to walk through at least the way I think about this and see what other folks think. And I don't answer it publicly, just answer it in your own head to figure out what you really believe. Regardless of how we got here, whether we think the quarantine was necessary, whether it was early or late or not enough or too much, no doubt there has been some weirdness with laws and freedoms that I won't even go into. That's been a complete mess with allowing riots but not allowing, a funeral or whatever. All that is absolutely crazy, and not defending that. I'm on a very specific topic here. So we're seeing an uptick in cases, whether or not that's more testing or some other phenomenon, there's more, or at least if there's not more, we're more aware of how many people have this or don't have this. And the big thing I want to point out, one of the things that people are freaked out about is it seems like every week you wake up, it's mask or no mask, or at least it was at the first. One thing I want to point out is people dealing with science, their opinions are going to change. If you're looking at the facts, I retired a criminal investigator. We'll change our minds several times throughout a case of the who's and the whys and all, because you're following evidence and experience and trying to see what works. Political ideologies stay the same. If you're left or right and you don't know about an issue, you're going to look around and see what your buddies are doing and you're going to roll with that. So did it change because of science? Did it change because of political selectivism? I don't know. What I did notice was when I listen to people talk, it seems like we have politicized the mask wearing into left wing, right wing. And as you guys know, I'm politically homeless. That's where I am. I have no affiliation. I don't know where to go. So I've had people make comments to me negative about my mask and living in fear. Now, I don't live in fear. Dude, I have stage 4 cancer. I'm not worried about coronavirus. I've faced a lot of stuff. I don't live in fear. I don't think, should we have quarantined weak people, the susceptible people at first? I have no idea. There are a lot of theories on that. So, where was I going with this? Let's just roll with the fact that we have a virus, that there are people in a weakened state, and we're trying to figure out, do we wear masks or not? So when I started looking into why not to wear a mask, I had to throw out anybody that was talking about sheeple or George Soros. And it seems like some of them are in the extreme of there is no virus. It's all a means of controlling people. I do think that there was an effort to go overboard on quarantine and things like that when it came out, as it turned out not to be as bad as most people thought in terms of death rates and things of that nature. And then I started asking my friends. I heard about there's a traffic accident, I want to say in New York. Their person was wearing a mask and rebreathed enough CO2 that they went off the road and hit a tree. And I have a lot of questions about that. I found it, looked it up, and it said the police were kind of guessing that that's what it was. Of course, by the time, and the person survived, so you take the mask off. If you do have elevated CO2 or low oxygen saturation, that's gone. There's no way to test it. There have been studies of medical personnel and other people who have to wear breathing systems on how much CO2 they build up. And essentially all I found was that you could get a headache from it maybe. I coach fencing. We wear a mask. We rebreathe CO2. We experience less oxygen. So you pop it up and breathe in between touches, whatever. That was one of them. Improper mask care is people not taking care of them and that thing. And then we get into what type of mask protects from what one thing. So as I understand it, what we're concerned about, yes, the virus itself can pass through just about any kind of fabric, any kind of filtration. But the virus is attached, it comes out in vapor. So just like when you fog a mirror, clean your glasses, you see the water droplets form, they cling to that, and the mask presumably catches it. Do you rebreathe it? Does it dry out and then the virus comes through? That's a question that I don't really know the answer to. But we do know one thing. It takes a certain number of bugs, of individual virus cells for you to breathe in and get any particular cold or aerosolized or vapor riding virus. And a mask will reduce that number. That's the idea. Also, if you have it, you kind of keep your people juice to yourself. Your sneezes, your coughs, your breathing out. That's why, talking, singing, you're pushing out vapor and just breathing. And that's one of those things. So it helps keep it in, helps from taking it in, all that. I can't find anything that really does away with that. The tests, the studies that show no efficiency, they're not, it shows that masks don't work. I looked at some of those and they seemed old, and also they're not clinical, meaning they're not that tightly controlled. They were comparing populations of people that wore masks and ones that didn't, and you don't really know if they did it and if they follow the rules. I'm in a clinical trial for a cancer drug. They're very tight about what I do. So little different animal, newer tests. There's the one, you can look it up, where the lady, a lab tech, coughed on a dish without petri dish, with and without a mask, and you can see the difference of the junk it held in, which granted that's bacteria. But the funniest example I heard was this guy was I can't remember where it was. I wish I'd saved it. And I don't know if the guy was joking, but just the way he was talking about it, he seemed genuine. That he was wearing a mask in a public place and he could smell a fart. So that means it doesn't work. And so air and farts are molecules, individual free-flowing molecules, which will pass through the mask. So you can take in oxygen and you'll take in anything else with it, so you could still smell it. And that, I just thought that was funny, that was an empirical test for him, and then there's no reason to wear a mask, that it's all a conspiracy. So the newer tests, they're showing benefit, and by that I mean studies of populations who implement mask wearing, who require it and mandate it. Eastern Europe, Austria, places like, even some cities in the U.S. I can link some stuff if you guys want, or email me and I'll get it to you. Populations with masks are doing better on the spread. So from what I understand, we can, and it's totally necessary to open up the economy. The quarantine couldn't last forever, and I'm totally in favor of that. We've got to move. We've got to keep an economy. It seems to me, from what I've read, that if we would just wear masks and observe the simple social distancing, it is proven that we would beat this. We would save our economy. We would reduce the numbers of people who are contaminated. And people like me who are at a substantial risk. Now, granted, my immune system is no longer low, but my treatment will stop if I get sick. I've had 2 sepsis infections not related to corona, but my treatment stopped. And so that's, reduces my vertical time. And where do I get my information and what am I looking at? I have a rule that you always listen to the operator, and that comes from my law enforcement experience. I guess the best example would be when I was a SWAT commander and we would get called to do something. I would show up, and an administrator would probably tell me something or say something inaccurate, ridiculous, or too general to work with. When I talked to the people who were there who saw things go down, that's where the information is. So the people that are in the trenches seeing this every day. I'm under the care of an infectious disease specialist, several oncologists, and I talk to these folks, and they all agree, wear a mask. Wear a mask when you go out. I'm not saying wear one walking down the street. I'm not saying wear one at home, in your car, although I've forgotten and been driving around like an idiot by myself in a car with a mask on. But I trust these people, and also they're very well networked and they know what's going on and where. So it seems strange to me. Your chances, where I live, your chances of being infected with corona are far greater than ending up in a shooting, yet we're more likely to carry a gun than we are to wear a mask. So, and I do both. So, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. And the other thing I've noticed in I guess the guilt trip I'm going to throw is, if this is a liberal conservative issue and you are a conservative and you're on the right and you believe in Judeo-Christian values, as I do, what does our teaching say about protecting the weak, the sick, the innocent, neighbors, and brethren in general? Is that you do what you can to protect those people. So you could spread it, you could participate in spreading it just by being a person walking around in public. And someone like me, an elderly person, we don't want to have to sit at home all day. If everybody's wearing a mask, we can participate a little bit more normally. We would appreciate that gift. I can tell you I've spent 10 days in the hospital for an infection. Again, not corona, but invades the system similarly and needs similar care. And that bill is going to be around $60,000. And even with my insurance, it's more than we paid for our sailboat. So maybe an ounce of prevention would save some folks from that. It's a terrible experience, even though thankfully it's not as bad as people thought it would be in terms of the death rate. It's not like everyone has the sniffles and a fever and a cough and it goes away. There are quite a few folks who have had, even the ones that have come out healthy, have described it as a miserable, painful experience that we as a community putting on a mask could spare. I'm all for that. A lot of folks do not come out of it unscathed. They have permanent lung damage. There's been transplants involved, all kinds of stuff. So all I'm saying is read into this a little bit beyond meme level, get into some studies, look at what's happening in other places. They're using masks. Understand that the medical community is having to learn this as they go. Their medical treatments, you guys know, the chloroquine, dexamethasone, breathing, ventilators, all that stuff has been kicked around. First it was ventilator, then no ventilator, then prophylactic, chloroquine, I hope I'm saying that right, and then as a treatment, now dexamethasone, which I've been on. It's given along with chemo. It makes you feel fantastic. It gives you a little energy boost. So I'm saying look at your values, look at your sense of community, and maybe, maybe you'll see it different. Maybe I'll see it different, and maybe I'll stop wearing a mask. But it just seems to me, with the evidence at hand, the science at hand, with what should be our moral and value system, it's not a big deal to put on a mask when you go to the grocery store or whatever. Maybe save some folks and help some people out. That's all I'm saying. So that's what I got. I've got restarting chemo here in a couple of days, so I'm trying to get some episodes recorded and put out. Let me know what you guys want to talk about, live, recorded, with the group, anything. Give us a like and a subscribe, share our stuff. Cheers, and thank you for watching. Not bad.